the EU-Egypt Partnership Priorities 22 to 27 is ready and will be adopted soon by the European Union and Egypt. That is why I mentioned earlier that this is a milestone year for EU-Egypt relations as we enter a new phase of priorities to address new common challenges, promoting joint interests and guaranteeing long-term stability and sustainable development on both sides of the Mediterranean.
Egypt has been hard hit, like most other states, by the coronavirus pandemic. How is the EU supporting Egypt in the recovery process post-pandemic?
Particular attention is given to alleviating the adverse socioeconomic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and to reinforce cooperation in support of Egypt's Sustainable Development Strategy, Egypt Vision 2030, including a green, digital, resilient and just recovery and a shared commitment to the universal values of democracy, rule of law and respect for human rights.
What exactly does the new partnership priorities cover?
The new European Union-Egypt Partnership Priorities cover three main areas of cooperation: sustainable modern economy and social development, foreign policy, enhancing stability.
Mr. Ambassador, I know that the EU and Egypt enjoy a large portfolio of cooperation. Tell us more.
The European Union and Egypt are close neighbors and strategic partners with a long history of friendship. This is reflected in the cooperation of the European Union itself, its member states and the European financial institutions with Egypt over the last 10 years, I would say, with a total of 11 billion euros in grants, loans and investment across all sectors, with currently an active portfolio of more than 1 billion euros. Examples are numerous, which are best captured in this coming video.
تعالوا نتعرف أكثر عن مجالات التعاون بين مصر والاتحاد الأوروبي. Addressing common challenges and pursuing common interests on both sides of the Mediterranean is at the heart of the partnership between the European Union and Egypt, with focus on inclusive growth, job creation and social cohesion as a means to bring stability and prosperity to the region. With an ongoing portfolio of 1.3 billion euros, the EU supports Egypt's strategic vision, Agenda 2030, which aims to alleviate poverty and realize a sustainable, green and inclusive transition. Women, youth and society's most vulnerable are at the heart of the EU-funded interventions. Since 2008, the EU has been supporting Egypt in developing key infrastructure projects and has mobilized over 650 million euros in grants, funding which was blended to leverage over 7 billion euros in concessional loans provided by European financial institutions and member states' development banks. To support Egypt's green transition, the EU has co-funded key infrastructure projects in the energy sector, such as development of wind and solar farms. The EU has also contributed to major institutional and regulatory reforms, such as the reform of energy subsidies and the passing of market reform-directed legislation, helping develop this vital sector. The EU has also substantially contributed to the sustainable modernization of the water sector in more than 16 governorates, improving the quality of life for around 16.5 million inhabitants by the year 2023 and providing numerous job opportunities mostly in rural areas, thus contributing to the government flagship initiative Hayya Karima. With a Team Europe approach, the EU has funded pollution abatement programs and supported wastewater and solid waste management combined with conducive policy dialogue and climate diplomacy. The EU is looking forward to contributing to a successful COP27, which Egypt has generously accepted to host next November in Sharm el-Sheikh. To enhance socio-economic resilience and alleviate poverty while helping in responding to the impact of the COVID-19 outbreak, the EU has promoted participatory local development, addressed climate adaptation and provided socio-economic opportunities that have improved the living conditions of thousands of Egyptians, notably those living in underprivileged areas. And the EU is cooperating with Egypt across many other sectors in innovation, education, and in technical and vocational training to promote entrepreneurship, create inclusive and decent jobs, and foster an economy where women and youth are empowered to realize their full potential. Helping in adopting international best practices, TVET Egypt is working with government entities and public and private sector partners to update school curricula, enhance school infrastructures, and guide students and graduates in their transition to employment. TVET Egypt is also helping revive tourism, hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, by helping provide the skilled human capital the industry badly needs to get back on its feet. To boost employment and economic opportunities in underprivileged rural communities, the EU is encouraging farmers to replace wasteful irrigation techniques with sustainable water management methods that enhance productivity and boost food safety. Tens of thousands of farmers have benefited from the adoption of modern irrigation techniques and from the rehabilitation of irrigation canals that has enabled them to access clean and easy-flowing irrigation water. Urban and rural communities are being strengthened and children and youth resilience improved through support for education and social protection. To support the National Education Reform Plan and to fight against child labour, more than 1,000 community schools have been rehabilitated, enabling approximately 40,000 girls and boys to access better learning environments. Children living with disabilities are being empowered through awareness campaigns like Differently Abled. A collaborative effort by the EU and UNICEF, the campaign amplifies inclusion messages and has been effective in changing children's attitudes. And the inclusion campaigns are not just targeting children. Through the EU Trust Fund for Africa, the EU and Egypt are jointly addressing root causes of irregular migration and supporting the country's efforts in hosting migrants and refugees. Women and girls disproportionately affected by the pandemic have not been forgotten. The EU global response is strengthening their protection and empowering them to better cope with the hardships resulting from COVID-19. The EU's efforts in supporting women extends far beyond the pandemic to include women's socio-economic rights, their participation in public life, and ending gender-based violence. To further address the devastating impact of the pandemic, Team Europe, an EU initiative launched to offer support to partners hard hit by the pandemic, mobilized 1.8 billion euros in grants, loans and guarantees to help mitigate the impact of the coronavirus. To ensure no one is left behind, the EU has contributed to the implementation of the National COVID-19 Response Plan at the level of primary health centres. The EU has also provided protective equipment, which was distributed among solid waste workers and frontline workers in family planning clinics all over the country. As part of the COVID-19 response to Egypt, Team Europe has increased access to finance, in particular through European financial institutions such as EIB and EBRD, making it easier for MSMEs to repay their loans and strengthen their resilience during the pandemic. Several shipments via the COVAX facility have arrived in Egypt, helping increase the accessibility of the Egyptian people to COVID vaccines. EU member states have donated around 29 million doses through COVAX and on bilateral basis, and more is yet to come. As part of the response to mitigate the impact of Russia's war against Ukraine on partner countries, the European Commission has launched an initiative for a regional food and resilience facility to address short and medium-term needs of southern neighbourhood partners. Worth €225 million, the initiative aims to address the impact of rising prices of food and commodities in the region. The interventions will mainly target the most vulnerable and ensure their access to basic goods and services, such as by responding to commodity shortage emergencies and sustaining social protection and social safety nets. The EU has allocated a budget of €100 million to Egypt from this facility, which reflects the strength and depth of the EU-Egypt partnership. By continuing to work with Egypt, the EU and its European partners are committed to helping build a more resilient, more inclusive Egypt for the benefit of both Egypt and the EU.